And what's more, it's actually a good thing that God is angry at sin. Now, you may think that's a strange thing to say. Surely it'd be much better if God wasn't angry, if God was just loving all the time. This is where we get to explore how anger, how God's wrath and love relate. The Bible says God is love. In 1 John, it says God is love. The Bible never says God is anger. He is angry at sin. It never says he is anger itself, although he is love itself. How do those two things relate? It's not like there's a sort of ratio in God. Like he's sort of 90% loving and sort of 10% angry, and we have to hold those sort of two things in tension, in balance with each other. It's not even that his love sort of controls his anger in any way. His anger comes from his holy nature. It comes from who God is. It's not like God has sort of lots of different attributes, and they sort of all balance one another. Like he's sort of loving, he's kind, he's good, he's merciful, he's holy, he's pure, and he's sort of angry, and you have to sort of balance all of those things. It's not like that at all. God is just who he is. He is all of those things all at once, and his anger comes from his purity, from his holiness, from his goodness, from his justice, from his mercy. Anger is what happens when God, as a pure being, a holy being, comes into contact with something that is not holy, which is impure, which is wrong, which is corrupted. That's when God is angry. It's a response from who he is when he comes into contact with what is wrong. Now, let me just give you a question to think about. I don't know if you ever think about these questions, but before creation, before God made the world, God existed. Was he loving? Yes, he was eternally loving. The Father, Son, and Spirit were loving one another. God has eternally been loving. Before creation, was God angry? No, because there was nothing to be angry about. There was no sin. There was no injustice. There was no wrongdoing. God's anger is not the same thing as his love. He is love. His anger is a response from his purity to what is wrong in the world. His anger is not an attribute as such. And what's more, it's actually a really good thing that God is angry. It's a good thing that God is angry at what's wrong in the world. Because the opposite of love is not anger. Love and anger are not opposites. It'd be sort of love and indifference. God is angry at what is wrong in the world because he loves human beings. He loves human beings. He loves the world that he has made. He loves me. He loves you. And when injustice happens, when people sin against us, when we suffer because of the terrible things that are done, it is right that God is angry at those things. It is right that God is angry at things like the Holocaust, because it is part of his nature. It flows from his nature because he's a God of love. It would be profoundly unloving if God looked at all that was wrong in the world and wasn't angry, wasn't opposing all that is wrong. It is because he's a God of love that he therefore is angry when he comes into contact with things which aren't loving, which aren't holy, which aren't righteous.